Hello guys, I'm Unblessed Data, and welcome to another review. This time we have Hannibal Season 1, Episode 2. So far, this series has been really awesome, even though there's only been one episode. But I was really looking forward to seeing what Episode 2 would hold, and you know what, I wasn't disappointed. I thought it was really great, but I did still think the first episode was much better, but everything that made the first episode great was still here in the second episode. So before I get really into the review, just want to let you guys know that it will contain spoilers. So if you do not want to know what happened, go back and watch the episode and come back here. So let's get right into this episode. So right off the bat, we find, well, not right off the bat, but we find out that there's another killer of the day kind of thing. So we can see how this is going. But there's still like the fallout from last week's episode, and that still pertains to this episode. So we kind of get a mix of two different ideas here and two different storylines. So right at the beginning we see Will, and he's at a shooting range, and he's practicing a shot because obviously now he's using his gun. And when the target comes back, because it's on a string, he sees Hobbs' body come back. So again, we can see that it's really bothering him that he killed someone. He killed Hobbs. And we can really see that it's really affecting him. And throughout the episode, he sees Hobbs multiple times. So he does need help. And this comes up again. But now the FBI's with Will is at Hobbs' cabin in the woods. So now they're looking around trying to find any evidence, whatever. And they go into the cabin, and there's a lot of dead animals, like taxidermy almost. And they go in the attic, and there's just hundreds of antlers everywhere, ceiling, floor, everywhere, the walls, just tons and tons of antlers. So they see that, and yeah, okay. So they're looking for other bodies now, because there's still 8 other bodies that are missing, because they only found one body of all the people that the Minnesota strike has killed, which is Hobbs. So then they kind of come to a conclusion that, well, there's all these bodies and he was eating them. There has to be someone else that was eating them with him because, well, 9 bodies, that's a lot, and he couldn't have eaten that much. Like, there has to be someone else here in on this. And basically they say, you know what, maybe it's his daughter. And Will did save his daughter, so now we kind of see this creepy twist on this innocent girl that we thought was innocent in the previous episode. But we still don't know if she actually did help her dad and was a killer also, but we really don't know. And they even said, well, maybe she just lures them in and then, Hobbs takes care of them, but we really don't know. So that's kind of just thought. Then they find a piece of hair, like a strand of hair at the crime scene, and it's red, so that kind of comes into play later. And we cut to this clip of this woman uploading photos of the Minnesota Strike's nest, so the pictures that they were just taking, to the internet, and she has the same hair that they found on the crime scene, so we can see that that's connected. But she's just like uploading it to the internet, so we don't really know who she is, but we find out later that she's actually Freddy. And this character was a man in Red Dragon, so they kind of switched the roles, gender roles, but she still plays the same part as the man in Red Dragon, so, we'll get to that later, but, and there's actually a new intro to the show, and, the first episode, it was kind of just really subtle, while Will was talking to his class, and it just said Hannibal. This time we actually had like a sequence, and it was basically blood running, and it kind of formed the faces of the main actors, so it was really cool, actually. I thought it was really nice, and it really caught my attention, so I thought it was awesome. And again, this copycat is brought up again, that there's a copycat that was, an admirer of Hobbs, so that's still in the background too, the back burner. They still gotta find the copycat. But that's not the main focus of this episode. Then we see Jack and Elena ask if Will wants to return to the field because, well, we can see that he's disturbed by this whole thing. He killed a man, and he's still really disturbed by it. And, they basically say, if you want to return, you're going to need therapy. And, of course, the person for that job is Dr. Lecter. So he kind of, he doesn't really agree, but, okay, whatever, he just says, fine. So then we have this little therapy lesson with Lecter and Will, and the chemistry between them is really amazing. I think they play perfect roles, and just how they interact is really awesome. And, Dr. Hannibal Lecter, just amazing in the show. He stays creepy, but really calm, and I think that's perfect for him. So I thought, it was, Hannibal Lecter was amazing in this episode. then we cut to another scene where some kids are walking through the woods. They're just playing around, whatever. And they actually find bodies in the ground, and we just see their hands sticking up. And this is where it gets pretty creepy. This was probably the creepiest thing so far in the 2 episodes. Even creepier than Hannibal Lecter cutting up some lungs. This was really creepy. Basically, their bodies buried in the ground, really shallow graves. Their arm is sticking out of the ground, and they have a needle in it. Basically, this is what the killer was doing. And there's mushrooms growing on the bodies. So there's a bunch of mushrooms, hands sticking out. Really gross, really creepy. And basically, this is what happens. So the mushrooms are growing on the bodies. There's 9 bodies there, they're all buried alive with no restraints. So obviously they're knocked out. And basically the needle in their arm and everything keeps them alive. So they're slowly dying while mushrooms kind of grow on them. Really, really creepy. And so of course, at the crime scene they, dig up the bodies and everything. And they're, they're examining them and everything. And the mushrooms are actually, like, grown on the body. Like, they're not in the dirt, which is even more creepy. Really reminded me of The Last of Us. The video game that didn't come out yet for PS3. Fungi, zombies. That's what it is, basically. Just to give you an idea. Then, the same woman, which is Freddy, is at the scene of this crime scene. And she's basically pretending to be one of these children that found the body's mom, and she's basically asking one of the detectives, like, oh, what's happening and stuff, and she's just getting information to put on her website, and she's, of course, snapping photos. Then we see Will, and he rewinds time again, and he becomes the killer, and we see him burying the bodies, which is pretty creepy, too, and I just love that little scene where it's like, vroom, vroom, and it kind of rewinds time. Really awesome. I really like that effect, too. I think they couldn't have picked a perfecter way to do that. So yeah, I always like when that happens. Then, while he's like, as the killer, like pretending to be the killer, seeing what he's doing, he sees Hobbs' dead body in the grave. So again, it's haunting him still. And the man that was buried actually like kind of snaps back to reality almost, and he's alive. So one of the people that were buried was still like fully alive, like he actually wakes up. That was really creepy, and we don't see anything about him at all later on in the episode. So whatever. Then we have like another little session with Hannibal Lecter with Will again, like kind of another therapy thing. And again, this show doesn't really focus on Hannibal Lecter, which is kind of a bummer because I really, he's such an interesting character. I really would want them to. But it really does focus on Will. So I don't know why they called it Hannibal, just probably to lure you in with Hannibal Lecter. But I don't know. I kind of wish the title was changed a little bit, just so it's kind of not like a false thing. But it's not really, because Hannibal Lecter's still in it, but he's like barely in it almost. But, whatever. So then they have like another little thing, and Hannibal Lecter kind of talks to Will about Hobbs. And he doesn't know how to feel, and Hannibal Lecter is really bringing out like dark tendencies out of Will. Like saying like, can you, now that you've killed someone, can you see why people love the thrill of killing? And it's, it really brings up some dark tendencies that Will kind of has to think about, like, what, maybe he's true, maybe I'm a psychopath, and that's really something that's brought up multiple times in this. And then so after Will's little session with Lecter, we actually see Freddy is actually taping. She's actually taping like the session with Will and Lecter, and then Lecter lets her in after Will's gone. And she basically says, I want to interview you. You're so interesting, blah, blah, blah. But then Lecter, he's too smart for Freddy. Come on. And he basically says, I know you're a tabloid, like, journalist. And I know what's in your purse, so give me your purse. And so she hands over her purse to him, and he basically says, delete the conversation on this. And then another little weird thing is like, you've been terribly ruthless. How should I deal with this? And we can see that, like, okay, maybe he's gonna kill her, I don't know. So we kind of get a little scared about that, and we don't, obviously he doesn't kill her, but it really thought like he actually did. And then right after that scene, Jack is over at Lecter's house having dinner, and he gives him some meat, and he's like, oh, what kind of meat is this? Really delicious. He's like, oh, it's pork. And it's like, don't think that's pork, but whatever. And that was kind of funny. And he even says, next time, Jack, bring your wife. I'd like to have you both for dinner. just funny things like that. It's just really awesome in the show, just like little nods like that, because it's Hannibal Lecter, so awesome like that. Then we go to the Virginia lab, and they're kind of looking over the corpses of the bodies with the fungus on them, and they then realize there that they're all diabetic. So basically, the thing that allows them to basically linger and be still alive while he's feeding them like sugar is basically their kidney, because they're diabetic. So they basically realize that the killer is a doctor. Then we go to a scene, and there's a clip of a doctor giving out pills, like a prescription to this lady, and he's saying, okay, is here, just sign here, and is this your correct address? Yes? Okay. So like we can see, like, really, this is the killer here. And like, I don't know why, he's saying, oh yeah, this is your correct address. Like, why would a doctor say that? But whatever. And but we can obviously see he's doing that to go kill her. But if a normal doctor says it to you, I don't know how I'm gonna react now. But then we see the SWAT is all around this little place, this little pharmacy, and they basically found out who the doctor is, because basically 9 of his patients have been missing. Matches up to the people that they found, so obviously this guy's the killer. So now the SWAT's all around this little pharmacy, and Will's there too, and he runs up to the register where all the doctors are, and he's like, where is he? He's like, oh, he was just here, I don't know where he went. So he's like, okay, where's his car? And they go in the parking lot. Will opens the back of his car, the trunk, and there's actually a woman buried in dirt there, similar to what he did with the bodies that were found. So we can see that he's still killing. Then we see Hannibal Lecter, and he's just sitting in a chair, and he's on a tablet, which is really weird, because, they really don't mix, but again, the show's modernized Hannibal Lecter kind of thing, so it's kind of weird seeing that, but yeah. And he's on the site that Freddy's been uploading all these things about, the Minnesota strike and all this. It's I actually found out what that website is, because it was right on the top. It's tattlecrime.com. I wonder if that's an actual website. I don't know. But Freddy actually posted a bunch of stuff about Will, so obviously she didn't delete this recording, and very, very detailed about everything about Will. So Dr. Lecter's like pretty angry now about Freddy. Then we see Freddy. She's at her house doing whatever. The FBI just break in the house, and then Jack's there, and he's basically saying, you know what? You were at the crime scene of the Minnesota strike, because the hair that they found in the beginning matched up to be her hair. And she basically says, you can't arrest me for lying, And he basically says, I can arrest you for like messing with crime scenes and all that. And she's like, oh, please don't. Like, she doesn't even have, like, a comeback for that. So, I found that pretty funny. But then they just kind of let her go. And, yeah. So then we go back to Will. And Will's at the hospital of Abigail, where Abigail is. Abigail's the girl, Hobbs' daughter. So, she's still, like, in a coma, basically. And he's basically just sitting there waiting for her to wake up. And he accidentally falls asleep. And he sees in his dream, he sees a vision of, like, a moose walk by, like a large animal with antlers walk by, and he kind of goes out, and it's all dark, and he sees it kind of just go away. That's like the second time that Will has like dreamed about this or envisioned this. So you can see that he does have some psychopath tendencies, but so basically after that, so he's kind of just sitting there waiting for her. After that, the detective that we seen way in the beginning, I forgot about him, that talked to Freddy in the beginning and gave her information where the bodies were, with the fungus bodies, and she said, oh, I'm one of the mothers, so she gave her that information. He basically is waiting out of her apartment, and she comes out, and he basically says, he's all angry, saying, you made me, go on suspension because they thought I gave you this information on purpose. And yeah, so he was really angry at her, and I kind of totally forgot about that. Then the biggest shock of this episode, all of a sudden, a man runs up and shoots the detective right in the head. Did not see that coming at all. That was like the biggest surprise. It really caught me off guard. And it's actually the doctor that, this is the killer. And he basically says, I read your article, where's Will Grant? So then it went to a commercial. So we kind of had a pause there. When it came back, we go back to Freddy, and she's kind of like in a little ambulance just sitting there. And Jack's there, the FBI's there, blah, blah, blah. It's a crime scene. And he basically goes up to her and says, what happened and everything. And she says, he wants Will Grant. He's like, okay, where is Will Grant? Go get him. And she basically says he wants to talk to him, and he's like, he's obsessed, the killer's obsessed with, like, minds are like funguses. So we can see that's why he was doing all that stuff. And he basically says, he understands me, Will Grant, I want to talk to him, and all this stuff. So, he's insane, so he doesn't know what he's doing, but whatever. So, and then we find out that he's going to go to the hospital and bury Abigail. So, yeah, so he's going to do that. So, Will's notified at the hospital that, the killer's there. He's trying to get Abigail. So then Will runs to Abigail's bed, where she is in the hospital, but she's already gone. So then Will runs around, trying to find him, and Will eventually catches up to the doctor, that's the killer, and he takes out his gun, and this is where, it gets kind of freaky, because you think he's going to see Hobbs again, but he doesn't. So we can see that he's getting past it, and he takes a shot and shoots him in the shoulder, so he's not dead, but he's kind of just, he's immobilized now. He's on the floor. And so that's kind of the end of him. He's brought in jail, whatever. And then we go to another little session with Lecter and Will, and they're talking about what happened, and he's like, I didn't see Hobbs this time, so that's good. Then Hannibal kind of just says, do you like killing? And he's like, and Will kind of just says, like, yeah, I think I do. So we can see, again, there's psychopathic tendencies there. And it brings it up a lot, and we can see that Lecter's bringing it up with him, like, on purpose. So that's going to probably lead to somewhere. I just thought this episode was really good overall. And again, Hannibal Lecter in the show is just really creepy, but really calm, just like the other versions of him. I just think it's a really good representation of him. So far, I really like the first 2 episodes. What did you guys think? Tell me in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Whatever. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And you can go back to my channel for more news and reviews. You can follow me on Twitter at unblesseddata. So for now, guys, see you later, and peace out.